Be still, my beating heart. Could it be that Beverly actually made a ruling before Friday? Hello, 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 and welcome back to Alexasrewm, where we are not lawyers, we are not medical professionals, we are definitely not dog bite experts, and we are not law enforcement. We are just people. People who have opinions about all things going on in the true crime community, including all the crazy shenanigans that have unfolded whilst I have been away these last few weeks in regards to our favorite townies, the Cantonites, right? And the Karen Reed case. Now, if you've been following along, we had that continuation part 2 of the Daubert hearing for the dog bite expert as to whether or not Dr. Marie Russell, who was so fantastic in the first trial, whether or not she was going to be able to testify once again as a dog bite expert in round 2. And according to these news media reports, it seems like she will be allowed in, which, I mean, I'm not really particularly surprised at, because that would look completely contradictory to our beloved Beverly if she went back on her original ruling. But in true Beverly cannoli oil style, she had to always, of course, keep us on her toes by hosting a 2-parter of this ridiculously long Daubert hearing. I believe it was full days for both days, so about 6 to 7 hours worth of going back and forth between Brennan and Alessi. So let's see what WCVB has got to say.
The prosecution fought hard to keep this witness off the stand, so today's ruling is a significant win for Karen Reed's defense. But the judge also said that this was, in her words, a close question. Now, during this hearing that lasted 2 full
Now, I mean, I just gotta pause things there. A close question to what, Beverly? You allowed her in the first time around. We did this whole dance and hoedown hootenanny the last time. So I don't really know what exactly was close to question, but I'm sure we're about to find out.
days, both sides argued whether retired ER doctor Dr. Marie Russell should be able to testify at Reed's second hearing. Russell has concluded that John O'Keefe's arm injuries were not caused by a strike from Reed's SUV, but rather by a dog. The judge has now ruled that Russell is a qualified expert in this area, but she also laid out a kind of roadmap for the prosecution to try to punch holes in Russell's testimony.
And so she's already given a little bit of an outline to the prosecution as ways that this expert could be undercut on cross-examination.
To sedate the patient.
For example, the judge says that Russell failed to compare the marks on O'Keefe's arms to the actual teeth of the dog that lived at the home where he was found, a German Shepherd named Chloe. The prosecution...
Now, and again, I'm going to pause right here, because if you didn't catch the testimony or cross-examination from the last week's Daubert hearing, which only happened about a week ago. I can't believe we're actually talking about this, and Beverly has actually come back with a ruling, and nevertheless a ruling in favor of the defense. If you missed that headline before, is she is going to be able to testify, obviously. But I think it's pretty funny because during the hearing, the Commonwealth, Brennan, made a very bold claim, unbeknownst to, I'm fairly certain, everybody, including Karen Reed herself, that Chloe apparently lives. And the Commonwealth paid her a visit live and in person to take teeth molds of Chloe. And I think this is pretty interesting, because he also claimed, too, that they invited the defense to come along on this road trip to, New Hampshire or Vermont or wherever she was allegedly rehomed, whatever puppy farm she is currently residing in. Hint, hint, wink, wink, if you're catching my drift there. And my whole question, this just opens up a can of questions for me. This seems too close to question for me, Beverly, is, 1, this happened 3 years ago. If Chloe is in fact alive still, her teeth are likely going to be in a different condition than when they were at the time of the crime. Would they not? I mean, dogs age, just like people do, right? Our teeth change the older we get. And dog years are very different than human years, and as are many animals, right? So, and as you get older, you sometimes you get that wear and tear in your teeth. Teeth get a little bit more yellow. Same thing happens to dogs. And not that I am, of course, a Dr. Marie Russell, a dog bite expert or connoisseur, but it doesn't take a dog bite expert to use common sense and ask these questions of, okay, well, it's great and all that you took molds of her teeth last year, but that's 2 years after the fact, and in dog years, that's actually 14 years, so kind of not really relevant anymore. And if she did, in fact, bite Officer John O'Keefe's arm, which it certainly looks like it, I mean, we've seen the photos, right? That would, I would assume, cause some trauma to her teeth, right? And again, these are just the questions that I have as a layperson, somebody who doesn't own a dog, but somebody who's been following this case and knows how to use common sense. Because, well, I mean, if you can't use common sense, then how can you just waft through life, right? So, but I thought that was pretty interesting because this is new information to at least the public. I mean, none of this came out in the first trial. Lally didn't even attempt to claim this. And again, if this was in fact true, why didn't it come forward in the first trial? Why wouldn't this have been entered into evidence? I mean, I feel like it just, at this point, it doesn't really make sense, and it doesn't really support or not support anything. And the best way to get proof of life as to whether or not Chloe is in fact alive and still among the living would be to bring her down here, right? Bring her down here and sit her on the witness stand, and let's hear from the dog herself. But, you know, hey, that's just my opinion, right?
Said last week that another expert has come to the opposite conclusion of Dr. Marie Russell, but the prosecution has not yet indicated if it plans to call an expert of its own.
If you want to dispute this, Brennan, which you have every right to do. I mean, it would be interesting to see, okay, like, yeah, bring your own expert. I mean, if you really have a strong conviction and can prove she's alive, like, where is this mysterious location that she is currently hiding out as a is she in witness protection? Like, where is she? Who are her current owners? Like, certainly there could be a point of contact that you could say, like, hey, they're willing to testify that yes, she is alive, yes, this did occur, yes, the defense did know about this. Like, there's just so many different avenues you can go down, on top of also providing your own expert to dispute what Dr. Marie Russell is testifying to. But in true Commonwealth fashion, I feel like that's going to be a very tall order. So let's get into exactly what this memorandum says here now, shall we? All right, I gotta zoom in a little bit, folks, because I am blind as a bat, as you know. All right, so in my humble, non-asked for, non-legal, professional reading of this, here comes Beverly. Before the court is the Commonwealth's motion to exclude the proposed expert testimony of the GOAT, the one and only Dr. Marie Russell. Dr. Russell intends to testify as to whether the abrasions on Officer John O'Keefe's right arm were caused by a dog. Because if it looks like a dog and talks like a dog, or barks like a dog and bites like a dog, it's a dog, right? The Commonwealth contends that the defendant has failed to show that her testimony meets the requirements set forth in Daubert versus Merrill Dow Pharmaceuticals, Inc., yada, 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 and Commonwealth versus Lanigan, yada, yada. The court conducted a Daubert-Lanigan hearing on December 12th, so this was over a month ago now at this point, and then again on January 7th, 2025. Although a close question, the court will deny the Commonwealth's motion. So yes, she will be able to testify, but as mentioned in the clip we just watched from WCVB, there are going to be some limitations as to what, in this regard, she will be able to testify. Now, before we continue on, from my understanding, if the defense wants to open up her testimony to, her experience, her years experience of conducting autopsies in regards to pedestrian and collision and motor vehicle accidents. They could set forth a motion prior to the trial, which is going to take place on April 1. So who knows? I mean, I would take full advantage of her. I mean, she could just knock everything out of the park and kill 3 birds with 1 stone, right? And then you set up ARCA if they're allowed to testify, which, I mean, of course they're going to be able to testify. So this whole thing is just a ridiculous ploy for the Commonwealth to continue to distract and drain Karen Read of all of her financial resources, as well as you, the taxpayers. And I would be livid if this was going on in my county, which you never know, it could be, right? So, discussion. Before a witness can provide expert testimony, the court, as the gatekeeper, must make a preliminary determination that the testimony has satisfied the requirements for admissibility. See Commonwealth versus Hines. Expert testimony is admissible when the testimony concerns matters beyond the common knowledge of the jurors and will aid the jurors in reaching a decision. Commonwealth versus Frangipane. I think that's how you say that, right? Frangipane. Expert testimony is inadmissible. However, when the witness testifies to matters beyond her area of expertise, see Commonwealth versus Rentala. That's a really interesting case as well, too. I didn't know actually that took place in Massachusetts. So, maybe we'll cover that in a deep dive. We got a lot of cool stuff coming up in 2025. Really gonna do some cool things on this channel, so you just sit tight. The determination of admissibility is within the court's discretion. See Commonwealth versus Robinson. However, before the court may exercise its discretion to admit expert testimony, the party seeking to offer the testimony here, the defendant, must establish 5 foundational elements. 1, that the expert testimony will assist the trier of fact because the information is beyond the common knowledge of jurors. Meaning you have to be the GOAT, like Dr. Marie Russell, right? You got to be the GOAT. You have to be smarter than a 5th grader. That the witness is qualified as an expert in the relevant area of inquiry. Yes, of course. That the expert's opinion is based on facts or data of a type reasonably relied on by experts to form opinions in the relevant field. 4, that the theory underlining the opinion is reliable. I mean, again, this woman's been doing every single dang job in the medical industry and also in law enforcement too. Don't forget that, guys. She was also working in law enforcement. She was like the first female officer within, I think, the department that she worked in Massachusetts. So, like, she's also a ringer too. Like, she's been there, done that, got all the dang t-shirts. And if you can't count that as qualified, then I just don't know anymore, right? If Trooper Paul is considered a reliable witness and a reliable expert, then there's no hope in the world, right? And 5, that the theory is applied to the particular facts of the case in a reliable manner. I mean, this is pretty broad altogether. I mean, we've gone over this before in some of my past videos and her past testimony in part 1 of the Daubert hearing as well too, which again, I will link in my description box below so you can catch up and check it out there. But I find it really, really funny how we're here having this conversation again when it's absolutely a waste of time. It's a waste of resources, and it's just further delaying the inevitable, which is the fact that the Commonwealth cannot prove that John O'Keefe was hit by a vehicle. Period. End of story. Doesn't matter what kind of vehicle it was, he wasn't hit by a vehicle. Here, the recognition of dog bite wounds is not within the common knowledge of a layperson and requires expert testimony, and Dr. Russell is a qualified expert to these topics. Sorry, Brennan. Sorry, boy. She is a board-certified emergency and medical doctor with over 30 years of experience, is trained in forensic pathology, and has conducted over 500 autopsies. Yes, 500! She had done like 2 a day when she was working in LA County. Like, how crazy is that? How crazy? And she's sitting here and she's taking all these cheap shots from Brennan, and not for nothing. I understand he has a job to do. I mean, he really doesn't need to do this job, but like still, he's doing a job. I get it. He's gonna ask her questions. We're not all gonna agree with his tactics or strategies. I get it. That's not my issue there. It's the disrespect, it's the delivery, it's the tone, it's certain questions. At times he felt very patronizing to me and almost gave me a vibe of like, you seem like you're a guy who doesn't like strong women, in my opinion. I don't know. That's the way he kind of came across to me. Tell me if you think differently. But the way that he was queuing up some of these questions for her, especially last week, very much felt like he was patronizing her, and he wasn't used to being not the smartest person in the room, because the GOAT was. Dr. Marie Russell was clearly the smartest person in the room, no doubt about it. With respect to dog bites specifically, Dr. Russell has treated hundreds of wounds resulting from dog attacks during her time as an emergency room doctor, and co-authored peer-reviewed articles on the treatment of law enforcement canine bites in their emergency room. Sorry if she didn't publish a book on Amazon, hey. Lastly, informing her opinion in this case, Dr. Russell conducted a differential diagnosis based on the pattern of the victim's wounds and their characteristics, and supported her theory with references to peer-reviewed publications. Use of differential diagnosis is a standard scientific technique of identifying the cause of a medical problem. Case of Hicks, yada, yada, yada. Accordingly, the court finds that Dr. Russell's testimony satisfies the 5 foundational elements, and therefore will allow Dr. Russell to testify as to whether the abrasions on John O'Keefe's right arm were caused by a dog. And that was supposed to be the extent of the line of questioning. I don't know why it took like 16 hours for that to happen, especially because you could literally sit through the first Daubert Lanigan hearing where she's being asked pretty much the same questions by Lally. Also, too, he's like kind of your co-counsel, so you could probably get briefed there. And I get you want to inquire further. You have a right to do that. You have a right to do whatever you need to do to build your case, whatever, yada, yada. But still, it seemed like the way he was kind of going about it. And again, I would love to hear your opinions on this as well, too, for those of you who are all caught up to speed with this stuff. Is, do you think like a lot of his questions were in line with whether or not the abrasions were caused by a dog bite or not, or a dog attack, right? Could be scratches, could be bites, but it certainly to me looks like a dog bite. In my humble layperson opinion, right? But it just seemed like a lot of his questions were kind of trying to cover all bases, and more of like a show to a performance to the audience on court TV and law and crime and all of that. So, in so ruling, Beverly recognizes that on cross-examination, the Commonwealth demonstrated, among other things, that Dr. Russell's expertise primarily concerns the treatment. So these are the conditions, right? In regards to the dog bite stuff, right? This is not anything to do with motor vehicle and pedestrian collisions or anything like that, right? This is just in terms of what she can testify to with dog bites, not the identification of dog bites. That her evaluation of the abrasions failed to consider all available information. I mean, not for nothing, she didn't come into the game until after this alleged meeting of Chloe took place in these alleged dog molds, which seem to have just revealed themselves during this hearing, right? by Hank Brennan, right? If we're supposed to take everything he says as truth, I mean, let's keep it a buck here. She didn't come into the game until during the trial, so no, she wouldn't have been there. No, she wouldn't have met or interacted with Chloe. So, I mean, also, too, that's not necessarily her fault in that regard, but all right. That she has not compared the abrasions with the dentition of the German Shepherd in question. Again, produce Chloe. Produce her, and let's get it going. But nevertheless, it doesn't matter because it's, in dog years, it's 14 years after the fact. So, Now it'd be 21 years. So I don't know how good or not good those molds would be. I would say I've said this before, let's get the vet. That vet from the Vanity Fair article of the woman whose golden doodle was attacked, and she brought them to the vet after her dog suffered an attack at the hands or the teeth of Chloe Albert. Like, why can't we bring them in? Why can't we bring the owner of the golden doodle on the stand? If we're gonna really lean into the dog and to the dog bite testimony, and this is where we're going again, I would just say, if you really want to strengthen the defense, in my opinion, in regard to that, and really drive home the fact that this is likely a dog bite / dog attack, I don't know. That's just my opinion. I would call those people, or at least like enter something into evidence, right? Like, I don't know what's exactly possible, what's not, but I feel like it would be just as strong as getting Chloe herself to testify, right? And that her opinion is inconsistent with findings that there was no canine DNA in the area of the victim's clothing near the abrasions. Again, we've gone over that a million times, but yeah, you know how I feel about that. However, the court concludes that these issues go to the weight of Dr. Russell's testimony, not its admissibility, and can be addressed during cross-examination at trial. So this is where they kind of open things up to, I guess, plug some holes into the defense's case, into some of her testimony. So, which, at the end of the day, fine, fair, whatever. It's going to be round 2. It's going to be more of the same of what we saw last week. It is what I'm guesstimating. C. Hines, yada, yada, in evaluating admissibility, a judge does not determine whether to credit the expert's ultimate opinion. Order! For the foregoing reasons, the Commonwealth's motion to exclude the testimony of Dr. Marie Russell is denied. So, yes, we will see our favorite dog bite expert back on the stand sometime this spring in a theater near you. So, next up on the docket will be a Daubert hearing of Rick Green's testimony about Jen McCabe's Google search that allegedly didn't happen, even though it's just... I'm curious to see where Brennan goes with that, because this whole thing just felt like one big circus show, right? And if this took two days worth of Dauberting or dog-berting, then I imagine that anything to do with Jen McCabe is going to take at least 2 or more business days. So we'll be here for that when that does happen. They're also going after ARCA, which I'm not surprised about in the least bit. So we'll see. There's a lot that's coming down in the pike. I mean, April is only a few months away, and it's going to be here before we know it. We're going to be in pre-trial. We're going to be doing all of this. So if you want to stay up to date with the latest going on in the Karen Read trial, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next update from me. And make sure you hit that like button, because that tells the YouTube algorithm that this is newsworthy news. And it is. It's pretty exciting. It's a big win for the defense today. I'm excited to see more wins come down the pike. We still haven't heard anything from the SJC. So, again, we'll just continue to wait on that. And when there's updates on that, of course, we'll be reporting it here. And we'll also be covering some other stuff, too. So if there's any cases that you want us to cover here on this channel, make sure you comment those case suggestions below or on the community tab. I always love engaging with you guys. I appreciate you all sticking by me. Like I said, I didn't want to make this video about me and my mental health and taking a break and all of that, but just full transparency. Thank you so much for those of you who have continued to stick by me, with me. Winter is always a difficult time, especially around the holidays, for me particularly, as I know it is for a lot of you. So if you are in a certain place, mentally, emotionally, take care of yourself, take care of each other, get yourself some help. You deserve it. Don't be ashamed about it. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I know I'm one to talk because I like to think that everything's okay and bottle everything up until it explodes. So don't do that. Get the help, ask for help, and don't be afraid to lean on people in this community as well too, because that's why we're here. So build each other up, not break each other down, like the Commonwealth is trying to do to Karen Reed. But we're here for it because Karen Reed is a lot stronger than that, and you are a lot stronger than that too. So with that being said, I will see all of you wonderful, beautiful people in the next video.